Thanks so much for talking to Australian Yowie Research.
Thank you for having me.
You've recently moved into Hepburn Springs.
Yes.
You reported to the Australian Yowie Research website, to Dean Harrison, that you'd been experiencing some strange things and had seen something big, dark brown and hairy looking in your window.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Walk us into maybe a chronological account of each of those experiences, because how many were there?
4 times before I contacted Dean. Before I sort of the penny dropped that this was a little stranger than normal.
Yeah. Walk us through what's happened from the first day you moved in, because that was the first time. Tell us in as much detail as you can what happened, and then I'll ask you some follow-up questions after that.
The first night I was there, I moved up in the morning and a close friend of mine helped me move, and she decided to stay over the night for the weekend, and we just, sort of relaxed and had a drink and, just were chatting away. And she decided to stay and she slept on the fold-out couch, which is in the living room. I went to bed, literally passed out, as you do after moving. But she, when I got up in the morning, said, "Oh, my God, I don't know what was going on last night, but it was a little crazy in here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Pretty much sort of thought it's possums, it's, just the normal bush sounds as, city girls. It was, just brushed it off as that. But she did say, "I don't know what the hell was outside the window on the deck last night. I've never felt anything like that before." And I've spoken to her since we've had a chat quite a few times about that night, and she just said there was a constant unease where she just felt this level of dread that she hadn't felt in a really long time. Anyway, so she stayed and then went back. I think it was that following night. I was in the bathroom. Now, I think it was just sort of dusk, facing the mirror that's in the bathroom, which you can see the window that's in the bathroom just sort of reflected in the mirror. And I saw this dark brown sort of hair outline sort of figure. And when I turned, there was nothing there. It was instantaneous. And I thought, well, that's weird, but didn't think too much of it because I'm just thinking, well, you're tired. I just thought, oh, okay, and didn't worry about it too much, and ended up having several moments like that, particularly in the bathroom. And by the final time it happened to me, when I actually called Dean, because I'm sort of thinking, I'm catching the corner of my hair, or my hair must be hanging over my face out of the corner of my eye or something. But then I realised I've got blondish coloured hair, and this was like a dark brown sort of reddish hair, and I could definitely feel something was peering at me. When you just get that feeling that you've been watched. That's when I just sort of heard the word Yowie in my head. I've had no experience whatsoever. This is not in my realm of thought at all. I have heard stories about Sasquatch in the States and heard a couple of people talk about it, but really hadn't thought too much about it at all. Definitely hadn't thought anything about it, stupidly about it in Australia. Just not in my day-to-day reality. And I thought, I'll Google that. So I Googled it and came across Dean's website, and I just felt so strongly that that was what I was dealing with. Then when I searched, Dean has a great page about where the sightings have been. And so I'm just scrolling down there, and I saw the last sighting was in Hepburn Springs. Well, just from that quick scan, and I went, okay, so this is a thing, it's not just me. And that's when I reached out to Dean. Yeah, just sent a message.
Do you want to go through what happened last night?
Yeah, okay. Whether this is relevant or not, I think that the last big experience was the time we first spoke on the phone, which I think was the full moon. So, 2 weeks ago? Beautiful night last night, just had all the windows and doors open. I was just sitting on the couch reading. I think it might have been about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm not sure. I didn't look at the clock, but it was definitely dark outside. So I had all the windows open, but I had the blinds in the living room closed, which is right next to this bathroom, the next room. And I was just sitting there last night. All of a sudden, someone was walking along the deck outside the living room. So I jumped up and thought, oh, he's coming this late at night. But I guess at the same time, I was sort of like, oh, hello. Hopefully this isn't something. I got up and went to the kitchen, where the back door is, where the deck continues to. When I got to the back door, which was wide open, the screen door was shut to turn on the light, all I could hear was suddenly stopped and ran through the bushes, which are down to the gully, which is just below my place.
You mentioned to me earlier that it sounded like bipedal, so somebody with 2 legs as opposed to a kangaroo or something with 4 legs.
That was the weirdest bit, because I was half sort of thinking it definitely sounded like separate footsteps. Not that I have enough experience to know this, but I assume that a roo would jump sort of together. It wouldn't be separate sounding footsteps. And I'm thinking that if it was human, it wouldn't have been then rushing through, bushes. It would have just walked off through the path.
Would have run back
or down the stairs or down the deck. I don't know, like whether between me walking to the kitchen that there was further footsteps, but I don't remember hearing that. I just remember hearing and because it's pitch black and the lights don't shine into the gully, I couldn't see, but all I could hear was this rustling through all the bushes. So,
and that gully, because I visited you there, is really thick with trees and foliage and undergrowth and quite dense in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it was a person, it would be unlikely for someone to vault the deck and then run through the bush in the dark.
Well, it'll be a steep fall too in the dark.
Yeah.
It's kind of like nobody could have navigated that in that dark. There's no lights, there's no... Yeah.
So let's go back to the first time you saw the whatever it was in your window. The bottom of the window is maybe 1.5 metres from the ground.
Yeah.
And the top of the window is a couple of metres.
Couple of metres.
Yeah. So where in that window did you see the brown thing?
So it was kind of sort of central inside the window.
And it's a double window, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether that was something bending over looking in, I don't know. I distinctly remember an outline and I can sort of visualise that really clearly.
So what did that outline look like? What part of the body did you think you were looking at?
Just the head and the sort of shoulders. It was just too quick for that, like sort of an outline. But physically what I saw was dark brown, almost reddish fur kind of hair.
How long was the hair?
So it wasn't particularly long, but what do we call that? Like
3 or 4 centimetres?
Yeah, 3 or 4 centimetres. And it felt kind of innocent at that stage. It didn't feel horrible. It just felt like something was just checking me out, if that makes sense.
And you weren't feeling frightened at that time?
No, at that time, not at all. Kind of like the same feeling you get when, the wildlife, which it certainly did, came in to check me out, the birds and the maggies and the kookaburras, and it just kind of had that feeling. It didn't feel awful. I just felt unnerved, I guess, is probably more the word. Mm-hmm. Just like, as you would if you felt like anyone was peering through your window. It's kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. If it's a double window, so which stretches the length of that bathroom wall, if you're in the bathroom looking at the window, if you're standing in the doorway of the bathroom and looking at the window, was it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the window?
Central.
Right in the middle?
Yeah, right in the middle.
And which way did it duck out of sight, do you feel?
Well, that was the weird bit. Like towards the living room slightly. So not the other way, which you would expect, like it was going to go down the gully stairs. Sort of the other way.
What did you do then? Did you walk into the lounge room to see?
Yeah.
Was it light outside at that stage? I know you said it was morning, but it's light outside.
Yeah.
I believe the next moment you talked about was the really bad smell that you noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the next time?
Yeah. Well, I was just having a shower, just getting ready for work, and this smell, rotting, oh, God, it's hard to describe, but kind of like rotting flesh or just like sewer smell. And it was really gross. And then I thought, oh, maybe the drains are blocked, you know. Or then I thought maybe it's a dead mouse or something, a possum that's trapped in the roof. I thought, oh, okay, it's the bush. Things die all the time. It's going to stink. That's pretty rank. Went to work, stopped off Goddraino on the way home. But when I got back home, there was no smell at all. Like nothing. Which I thought was kind of odd because I thought if it's a dead mouse, you know those things stink for days.
Are you on, is it mains water or tank water?
Mains.
Mains. So there wasn't something dead in a water tank?
No.
Right,
yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but no. Couldn't smell anything outside. I think when I walked past the window to go to work, because I left it open thinking, holy hell, that stinks. By the time I got home, absolutely nothing. You know, did the Drano and really didn't think anything of it until I heard your podcast about the smell when you were out at the site.
If you're not aware that that's one of the signs that a Yowie might be nearby, you felt this creature's energy hanging around your house.
Yes.
And that it felt male.
Yes.
It felt like male energy.
Yes.
You felt like it was hanging around the house all night, one night?
Yeah. I think that was that full moon. And I'm pretty fine with things that go bump in the night. I never get worried. I don't get scared at night. Initially when I felt it, it did feel, really male. Then changed to after the time went on, it started to feel quite almost predatory. Not predatory, but quite like it was marking its territory kind of feel. Like you're in the wrong place. That night, I could feel it like it was sitting out the front of the house all night. The feeling I had was, I don't want to say terror, but extreme kind of fear. And it was like almost an immobilising fear. Whatever it was wanted me to be petrified. Right. But yeah, I was really unusually frozen scared, if that makes sense.
And did that last all of that night?
All that night until sort of dawn break. So early morning, then I felt it leave. And I got up and I looked out the window and there was nothing there and everything seemed to be fine. Up to then, I'm like, okay, there might be a Yowie. How cool is that? You know, I didn't really...
A lovely, friendly Yowie.
A little Yowie. Can't be that bad.
Be like one big
whatever.
Be like one big teddy bear.
Yeah. Yeah, not so much. Not that night, anyway.
No. I'm not sure if it was the second or third experience you had, but you mentioned that you were up on the deck, outside on the deck in the evening and heard some strange noises going on in the bush. Do you want to tell me about that?
I think that was the second night I was there. You know, I can't see when it's dark there. There's not lights, you know, or street lights out there. And I heard this noise that sounded like a squealing, some sort of wailing sort of pig noise. And I thought, maybe there's wild pigs or something around the area. I don't know. I thought koala. I know koalas make pretty extreme noises. Not that I've had huge amount of experience with that either, but I know they can sound pretty human-like. But then there was this rustling that went with it through the bushes. So I'm assuming that wouldn't be a koala, because a koala would be sitting in the tree wailing if they were mating or whatever they do, making their noises. This was definitely on the ground through the shrubs, and I've heard it a couple of times now.
Different
nights. Or you've seen it, looks like a bit of a trail run through the back bit there. So I don't know what that was, but I haven't heard it in the last couple of weeks, that's for sure.
And you hadn't heard anything like that before?
No.
No.
Not at all. I don't know if Hepburn region's famous for their wild pigs. I don't know. I doubt it, but I don't know.
I don't think so. Mineral water, yes.
Yes.
Let's go back to the creature you saw looking in the window.
Yep.
Have you seen it more than that once, that morning that you were going to work?
I think 2 or 3 times. It was so quick. That was the weirdest thing about it. It wasn't like it was my imagination. It even felt so different to like, oh, that's an animal that's, well, I don't know what animal would be able to see through the window. Anyway, I can't think of another animal that would make this looming feeling.
Was it a solid shape?
Yeah, solid. Definitely
shape.
Solid. But then how it's moved so fast is so weird as well. But I guess that's the nature of them from what I've read. You know, that's why they're so hard to get images of or whatever. And I can directly relate to that. It didn't feel just animal, and it definitely didn't feel like, oh, there's some weirdo hanging outside the window with a mask or you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you don't feel like it was someone dressed in a Chewbacca costume.
What the hell they've been doing around my place, I have no idea. But anyway, stranger things do happen. But you would have heard footsteps running because there's all gravel around me.
The deck is quite creaky.
Oh,
too,
really, really creaky.
So you would hear anybody, you would most likely hear a person walking onto that deck.
Yeah, immediately. Yeah. So
they were tiptoeing. Do you reckon they would?
No, because it's got that, like they're loose. They're loose. Everything's a little dodgy. Loose boards that really squeak every time you go past. You can hear.
What part of the body do you think you were looking at?
Just the shoulders and the head. See anything?
That was the outline, the shape that you saw.
Yeah.
And it moved from the centre of the window towards the lounge room side rather than off the deck.
Yeah.
After that experience, did you tell anybody about that?
When I put things together, I spoke to my friend that was there that first night, and we both just laughed our butts off, to be honest, because we just thought, how hysterical. Both of us, again, have heard about Sasquatch. I'm not into any of that sort of, it's not like I sit there listening to theories about Bigfoot or Sasquatch. It's not like that. Just I've heard it, but it's not anything I thought about. So we just kept laughing and going, okay, there's a Yowie. And, of course, I found it or it found me. So welcome to the neighbourhood. I think the only thing I'd ever heard of was a kid's story about bunyips and a billabong, which probably was when I was, in prep or kinder or something like that. No, not at all. Like, obviously I've heard of Yowies, but not. And I'm really into learning more about Indigenous culture and stories and Dreamtime and all of that. I'm really interested in, and just never heard about Yowies.
In my research, I found that this has been reported that a lot of Aboriginal cultures don't talk about the Yowie or the hairy man to outsiders or even to other people, that doing that can bring bad luck or illness.
I get
and
that.
they're quite frightened of the hairy man and what they can do, so that you might not, if you're speaking to local Aboriginal people, they might not volunteer any of that information anyway.
I totally understand that now, having had this experience. I totally get that, because it's almost like, you just don't want to have that feeling again, that feeling I had of dread, or inviting that into my life again. No way do I want that feeling. Before then, I was probably like, well, let's make friends and, so to speak.
I'll leave.
I don't mean literally.
I'll leave some treats out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think I asked you that. I'm like, what do they like? Completely no.
Can I
idea.
leave them some apples?
Yeah, can I leave them things? Does that? What do they want? Then after that experience, I was like, okay, now I get what they're saying. Okay, this is a whole other thing. And I didn't want it to be threatened. I didn't want it to feel like I was coming to threaten it. But I also now realise that although I don't like to be one of those people who doesn't like things that go bump in the night, it's not very Aussie, is it? Yeah, I've definitely rethought things since then. Yeah, and so I understand, getting back to that point of them not wanting to disclose that, to bring that back in any energetic way. I totally understand.
And how are you feeling now? So the last time I spoke to you there, up until last night, which was the footsteps on your deck, you had a gap where you were feeling, you didn't feel any of those feelings, you didn't see anything or hear anything?
I felt fine after that night. I thought, okay, I've stood my ground in whatever way I did that. I'm not sure. I felt like it had moved on. Like maybe it was still in the area, but not like it had given up after that night. So I've been fine, not worried at all. It's been really peaceful. If anything, it kind of felt like the bird life got more active afterwards. It's felt a lot more relaxing. So I didn't worry at all. And then, of course, weirdly last night, these footsteps, I still feel fine.
You still feel fine now?
I feel fine. It's just weird. Like, I don't want it to continue on. So, yeah.
Yeah, but we can talk about things that you can do to make yourself feel safer too. Things like changing the light outside so that it shines out onto the deck a little bit more, so you've got a bit more illumination, maybe a different kind of bulb or something.
Yes.
Generally, from what I understand, the more you light up your house at night, the less likely you are to have uninvited visitors. Thanks so much for talking to Australian Yowie Research.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.